The deep space around Sector 7 was quiet, just like it had been for weeks. Stars dotted the endless black sky like tiny diamonds. In this peaceful emptiness, the UES Retribution moved slowly through space on its patrol route. The human warship was not very big compared to other military vessels. It was about 300 meters long with a gray metal hull that looked ordinary and worn from years of service. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, looking at the main screen that showed empty space ahead. She was a woman in her 40s, with short black hair and calm brown eyes. Her uniform was clean and pressed, with captain bars on her shoulders. The bridge around her was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and air systems. "Anything on the sensors, Martinez?" Chen asked the young officer at the sensor station. "Nothing unusual, Captain. Just the normal background radiation and some distant asteroid fields," Martinez replied without looking up from his screen. Chen nodded and walked to her captain's chair. The Retribution had been patrolling this area for 2 months now. It was boring work, but someone had to watch the outer edges of human space. Pirates sometimes came through here, and there were always rumors of alien ships testing their borders. Suddenly, Martinez sat up straight in his chair. His screen was flashing with new contacts. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple ships coming out of hyperspace. They're big, and there are a lot of them." Chen moved quickly to look over Martinez's shoulder. The sensor screen showed 12 large contacts appearing in space about 50,000 kilometers away. The ships were massive, much bigger than the Retribution. "Can you identify them?" Chen asked. "Working on it, Captain. The computer is running their ship designs through our database." Martinez paused as more information appeared on his screen. "Got it. They're Zephyrian ships, Captain. The big one in the center looks like a Dreadnought-class vessel." Chen felt her jaw tighten slightly. The Zephyrians were known throughout this part of the galaxy as aggressive warriors. They had conquered many worlds and destroyed several other alien races completely. Humans had heard stories about them, but this was the first time they had met face to face. "Are they moving toward us?" Chen asked. "Yes, Captain. All 12 ships are changing course to intercept us." The bridge crew became tense. Everyone knew the reputation of the Zephyrians. They were said to be 8 feet tall with thick armor-like skin and 4 arms. Their ships were built for war, covered in weapons and heavy armor plating. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the lead ship," said Communications Officer Park. "Put it on screen," Chen ordered. The main screen changed from showing empty space to displaying the bridge of the alien ship. The creature that appeared was even more frightening than the stories had described. Admiral Crixtel was huge, with dark blue skin that looked like natural armor. His forearms ended in clawed hands, and his head had spikes growing from it like a crown. His yellow eyes stared at Chen with obvious contempt. "Human vessel." Crixtel's voice was deep and threatening, translated by the computer. "I am Admiral Crixtel of the Zephyrian Hegemony, commander of the Dreadnought Void Render. You have entered space that now belongs to us." Chen stepped forward, keeping her face calm and professional. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Retribution. You are in human territory, Admiral. I suggest you turn your ships around and leave immediately." Crixtel made a sound that might have been laughter. Several other Zephyrian officers on his bridge joined in, creating a chorus of harsh barking sounds. "You suggest?" Crixtel leaned forward on the screen. "Little human, do you know who you are speaking to? I have conquered 47 worlds. I have destroyed entire fleets. My ships have turned whole planets into ash and glass. And you, in your tiny, pathetic vessel, dare to give me orders?" The alien admiral gestured with 2 of his forearms toward something off-screen. "My dreadnought alone masses 4 times your entire ship. I have 11 other vessels with me, each one capable of destroying your little boat with a single shot. The Zephyrian hegemony has never lost a battle. We have crushed every species that has dared to stand against us." Chen listened patiently, her expression never changing. When Crixtel finished his speech, she spoke in the same calm voice as before. "Admiral, I've given you fair warning. This is human space, and you need to leave. I won't ask again." This time Crixtel's laughter was louder and longer. "Fair warning? From you?" He turned to speak to his crew in their own language. and Chen could hear more laughter from the other Zephyrians. When he turned back to face her, his yellow eyes were bright with amusement. Human, your species has been in space for what, 100 of your years? We have ruled the stars for over 2,000 years. We have studied your pathetic little wars among yourselves. We know your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses. You are nothing but children playing with toys. The alien admiral stood up, and his full height was impressive even on the screen. I will give you one chance to surrender, because I am feeling generous today. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Your crew will become slaves and your ship will be added to my fleet as a trophy. Refuse and I will demonstrate why every intelligent species in this sector fears the name Zephyrian. Chen was quiet, for a moment, as if thinking about the offer. Behind her, she could feel the tension from her bridge crew. They all knew the odds. 12 large alien warships against one human destroyer. It should have been an impossible situation. Finally, Chen spoke again, and there was something in her voice that hadn't been there before. Something cold and dangerous. Admiral Crixtel, I appreciate your generous offer, but I'm afraid I have to decline. You see, there's something you don't understand about humans. We don't surrender, ever. And we really don't like bullies. Crixtel's eyes narrowed. Then you have chosen death, human. I will make your destruction slow so that you have time to regret your foolishness. I doubt that, Chen replied simply. The alien admiral's face twisted with anger. You have 10 of your minutes to reconsider. Use that time to say goodbye to your crew. When the time is up, I will show you why the Zephyrian hegemony rules this part of the galaxy. The transmission ended, and the main screen returned to showing the 12 alien ships in the distance. Chen turned to face her bridge crew. All of them were looking at her with worried expressions. They were good people, and they trusted her, but this seemed like a hopeless situation. Captain, said Lieutenant Commander Torres from the weapons station, those ships are massive. Our sensors show they're carrying enough firepower to glass a small planet. Chen smiled for the first time since the aliens had appeared. It was not a warm smile. Torres, what's the first rule of warfare? Torres thought for a moment. Never underestimate your enemy, Captain. Exactly. And what mistake did Admiral Crixtel just make? Understanding began to dawn on Torres's face. He underestimated us. That's right. Martinez, start a countdown timer for 10 minutes. Torres, begin charging all weapon systems. Park, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we have contact. With hostile aliens and are engaging. Chen walked back to her captain's chair and sat down. Around her, the bridge crew began working with renewed confidence. Captain, asked Martinez, are we really going to fight all 12 of those ships? Chen looked at the main screen where the alien fleet waited in the distance like hungry predators. Martinez, those aliens made two very serious mistakes today. First, they threatened human civilians. Second, they assumed we were weak because we're young. They're about to learn that being young doesn't mean being helpless, it just means we're still angry. The countdown timer appeared on the main screen. 9 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. Chen settled back in her chair and waited. The Zephyrians thought they knew everything about human capabilities. They were about to get a very painful education. The countdown timer on the main screen showed 7 minutes remaining. Captain Chen stood up from her chair and walked around the bridge, checking on her crew. Despite facing impossible odds, none of them looked afraid. They looked focused and ready. Torres, how are our weapons coming along? Chen asked as she stopped by the weapons control station. Lieutenant Commander Torres looked up from his console. He was a stocky man with graying hair and steady hands. He had served on human warships for 20 years and had seen plenty of combat. All conventional weapons are charged and ready, Captain. Pulse cannons, missile tubes, and point defense systems are green across the board, Torres reported. Then he paused and looked at Chen with a questioning expression. Should I begin the startup sequence for the special systems? Chen nodded slowly. Yes, but keep it quiet for now. Passive charging only. I don't want their sensors picking up any unusual energy signatures yet. Torres's fingers moved across his control panel, pressing buttons and adjusting settings that most people on the ship didn't even know existed. Deep within the Retribution, systems that had been sleeping for months began to wake up slowly and carefully. At his sensor station, Martinez was watching the alien fleet with growing concern. "Captain, the Zephyrian ships are moving into attack formation. The Dreadnought is staying in the center, but the other 11 ships are spreading out to surround us." Chen walked over to look at Martinez's screen. The alien ships were arranging themselves in a perfect sphere around the Retribution's position. It was a classic tactic for dealing with a single enemy vessel. No matter which direction the human ship tried to run, it would face multiple enemies. "Smart formation," Chen admitted. "They're not taking any chances." "Captain," interrupted Park from the communications station, "I'm picking up transmissions between the alien ships. The computer is having trouble translating, but it sounds like they're discussing how to divide up our ship after they capture it." Chen's expression didn't change, but there was something cold in her eyes. "Are they now? How thoughtful of them to plan ahead." On the Zephyrian Dreadnought Void render, Admiral Crixtel stood on his bridge watching the human ship on the main screen. The tiny vessel hung in space like a helpless target, completely surrounded by his fleet. He could see the humans had made no attempt to run, which proved they were either very brave or very stupid. Crixtel assumed they were stupid. "Sub-Admiral Vextar, what do your sensors tell you about the human ship?" Crixtel asked his second-in-command. Vextar was smaller than Crixtel, but still impressive by human standards. His blue-gray skin had scars from many battles, and his forearms moved quickly over his control station. "The vessel appears to be a standard human destroyer, Admiral. Length approximately 300 meters, crew of roughly 200 beings. Their shields are active but not particularly strong. Weapons appear to be basic energy cannons and primitive chemical rockets." Crixtel made a dismissive sound. "Chemical rockets? How pathetically primitive. What about their power output?" "Interesting, Admiral. Their power levels are actually decreasing. It appears they are shutting down non-essential systems. Probably preparing to surrender." The bridge crew of Zephyrians laughed at this news. Several officers made jokes about cowardly humans in their harsh, barking language. Crixtel felt a deep satisfaction. This was going exactly as expected. The humans had heard of Zephyrian might and were already giving up without a fight. It was disappointing in a way. He had hoped for at least a small battle to amuse his crews. "Admiral," called out another officer, "the human ship is powering down even more systems. Their energy signature is dropping rapidly." "Excellent," Crixtel rumbled. "They're getting ready to surrender, but I think I'll let them sweat a bit longer. Fear makes slaves more obedient." Back on the Retribution, the bridge lights had been dimmed to save power. Many of the secondary computer screens were dark, and the usual sounds of the ship's systems were quieter than normal. To any outside observer, it would look like the human ship was preparing to give up. Captain Chen stood in front of her command chair, arms crossed, watching the countdown timer. 4 minutes and 15 seconds remaining. "Captain," said Torres quietly, "the special systems are coming online. Power levels are building within acceptable parameters. The aliens shouldn't be able to detect anything unusual yet." "Good. What about the AI?" "Ares is fully active and running combat calculations. It's been analyzing the alien ships and their formation for the past 3 minutes. It's confident it can handle all 12 targets." Chen nodded. Ares stood for Advanced Responsive Engagement System. It was the most sophisticated artificial intelligence ever created by human military engineers. Unlike the simple computers that ran basic ship functions, Ares could think, plan, and react faster than any human or alien mind. "Martinez, are you getting good sensor readings on all their ships?" "Yes, Captain. Ares has identified weak points in their armor and mapped their weapon placements. All data has been loaded into the targeting system." The young sensor officer paused and looked up at Chen with curiosity. "Captain, if I may ask, why aren't the aliens attacking already? They have us completely surrounded." Chen smiled grimly. "Because they think they've already won, Martinez. They see our power levels dropping and assume we're getting ready to surrender. They're probably having a good laugh about it right now." At the communication station, Park was listening to more alien transmissions. "Captain, you're right. They're definitely celebrating. One of them just said something about using our ship as target practice for their junior officers." "How nice for them," Chen said dryly. Torres, status report on all systems. Conventional weapons fully charged. Point defense grid active. Shields at maximum power despite what their sensors are telling them. And the special systems? Torres paused and grinned. Let's just say we're ready to give them a big surprise. The countdown timer showed 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Chen activated the ship's internal communication system. Her voice echoed through every corridor, every room, and every station on the Retribution. Attention all crew, this is the captain. In approximately 2 minutes, we will be engaged in combat with 12 enemy vessels. The enemy believes they have already won because they see a small human ship surrounded by their mighty fleet. They think we are weak because we are young. They think we are afraid because we are few in number. She paused, letting her words sink in. They are wrong on all counts. Today these aliens will learn what every human child knows from studying history. We don't start fights, but we sure as hell finish them. When that timer reaches 0, we will show them why humanity earned its place among the stars not through diplomacy, but through superior firepower and the will to use it. All hands, prepare for combat. Throughout the ship, 200 human crew members checked their equipment and secured their stations. In the engineering sections, teams monitored the special systems that were now fully active, but still hidden from enemy sensors. In the weapons bays, automated loading systems moved advanced ammunition into firing positions. The countdown timer showed 1 minute remaining. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Crixtel was getting impatient. The human time limit is almost up. Are they going to surrender or not? Admiral, reported Vextar. Their power levels have stabilized at about 60% of normal. They appear to be waiting. Waiting for what? They're completely outgunned and outnumbered. Crixtel's forearms gestured in annoyance. No matter. When the time runs out, we'll destroy them quickly and move on to more important targets. 30 seconds remained on the timer. Captain Chen returned to her command chair and strapped herself in. Around her, the bridge crew did the same. All stations report ready for combat, announced Torres. Ares is standing by for full engagement, added Martinez. Communications are clear. All crew members are at battle stations, said Park. 10 seconds. Chen leaned forward in her chair, watching the timer count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The timer reached 0, and the main screen automatically switched to show the alien fleet surrounding them. Chen's voice was calm and cold when she spoke. Ares, you are authorized to engage all hostile targets. Show them what humans do to bullies. Deep within the Retribution, the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created by mankind opened its electronic eyes and smiled a digital smile. With you, pleasure, Captain, Ares replied in a voice that sounded almost eager. The real battle was about to begin. The moment the countdown timer reached 0, Admiral Crixtel's patience ran out completely. On the bridge of the Void Render, he rose from his command throne and pointed 2 of his forearms at the main screen showing the human ship. All vessels, open fire. Destroy that pathetic human boat. Across the Zephyrian fleet, weapons officers who had been waiting eagerly for this command began firing immediately. 12 massive warships unleashed their fury at once. Bright beams of energy lanced through space toward the Retribution. Explosive missiles streaked from launch tubes. Particle cannons sent streams of deadly radiation racing toward their target. It was enough firepower to crack a small moon in half. The combined assault from the alien fleet lit up the darkness of space like a miniature star going supernova. Any normal ship caught in such an attack would be vaporized instantly, leaving nothing but scattered atoms and memories. The weapons struck the Retribution's shields in a dazzling display of light and energy. Explosions bloomed across the shield, barrier like deadly flowers. The space around the human ship became a storm of fire and destruction. On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Crixtel watched the attack with satisfaction. No ship could survive that kind of concentrated firepower. The humans had made their choice, and now they were paying the price for their foolish defiance. Cease fire, he ordered after 10 seconds of continuous bombardment. Let's see what's left of them. The alien weapons fell silent and the explosions faded away, Where the Void Render's sensors had expected to find empty space and floating debris, something impossible appeared on the screen. The Retribution was still there. Not only was it undamaged, but its shields were glowing with a steady blue light that indicated they were still at full strength. The human ship hung in space exactly where it had been before the attack, as if 12 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy had thrown spitballs at it. What? Crixtel's voice was a strangled roar of disbelief. How is that possible? At the sensor station, Vextar was frantically checking his readings. His instruments had to be malfunctioning. No ship could absorb that much damage and remain completely unharmed. Admiral, the sensors show no damage to the human vessel. Their shields appear to be operating at full efficiency. In fact, Vextar paused, his yellow eyes widening with confusion. Their energy levels are increasing rapidly, much more rapidly than should be possible. On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Chen felt the ship shudder slightly as the alien weapons struck their shields. It was like being inside a building during a mild earthquake, noticeable but not dangerous. Damage report, she said calmly. Shields absorbed all incoming fire with no difficulty, reported Torres. Shield generators are operating at only 40% of maximum capacity. We could take 10 times that beating without breaking a sweat. Chen nodded as if this was completely normal. Around her, the bridge crew worked with the same professional calm they would show during a routine drill. The alien attack that should have killed them all was just another day at the office. Ares, begin revealing our true capabilities. Let's show them what they're really dealing with. Initiating transformation sequence, the AI replied in its smooth electronic voice. Throughout the Retribution, systems that had been hidden and dormant began to activate. The ship's hull, which had appeared to be a simple gray metal surface, began to change. Panels slid aside to reveal weapons that had been concealed beneath false plating. Hidden sensor arrays emerged from compartments that enemy scans had not detected. The most dramatic change was the ship's size. What had appeared to be a modest 300-meter destroyer began to expand as concealed sections extended outward. The Retribution unfolded like a deadly mechanical flower, revealing its true dimensions. It wasn't a small patrol vessel at all. It was a massive heavy cruiser that had been disguised to look harmless. Within 30 seconds, the ship had grown to over 800 meters in length. Weapon ports opened along its hull like the eyes of a predator awakening from sleep. Advanced sensor arrays deployed from hidden compartments. Engine sections that had been folded inward spread out to reveal the most powerful propulsion system ever built by human engineers. But the most terrifying change was the energy readings. What had registered as a weak power signature now blazed like a small sun. The Retribution's true power output was beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever encountered. On Warship, the alien flagship Chaos erupted across the bridge. Warning alarms screamed as sensors tried to process what they were seeing. Officers shouted reports in their harsh language, but none of it made sense. Admiral. Vextar's voice was high with panic. The human ship is transforming. Its mass has tripled. Energy output is increasing beyond our ability to measure. Crixtel stared at the main screen in horror. The small, harmless-looking vessel that had seemed like easy prey was revealing itself to be something completely different. The human ship now looked like what it truly was. A warship designed by a species that understood violence at a level the Zephyrians had never imagined. Impossible, Crixtel whispered. Our intelligence report said humans were primitive. Their ships were supposed to be crude and weak. Admiral, called another officer, we're detecting weapon systems that our computers can't identify. The power levels, they're impossible. No civilization we know has technology this advanced. Across the communication channels, the other Zephyrian ship captains were demanding explanations. Their sensors were showing the same impossible readings. The tiny human destroyer had somehow become a monster that dwarfed even their largest dreadnought. Captain, Chen stood on her transformed bridge, which had also expanded to accommodate additional command stations. New control panels had emerged from hidden compartments, and holographic displays now showed three-dimensional tactical information floating in the air around her. Torres, are all weapon systems online? All weapons are charged and ready, Captain. We have full targeting solutions on all 12 enemy vessels. Ares has identified the optimal attack sequence. Martinez, what are the aliens doing? Their formation is breaking up, Captain. Several ships are trying to move to safer positions. The dreadnought appears to be backing away from us. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Zephyrians were finally beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. Open a channel to the alien flagship, she ordered. Park's hands moved over his controls. Channel open, Captain. The main screen split to show both the alien fleet and Admiral Crixtel's shocked face. The proud warrior who had been so confident just minutes before now looked confused and frightened. Admiral Crixtel, Chen said in the same calm voice she had used throughout their encounter. I tried to warn you. I gave you a chance to leave peacefully. You chose to attack instead. Crixtel found his voice with effort. What are you? Our intelligence said humans were a young, primitive species. We are young, Chen agreed. But we've learned very quickly. You see, Admiral, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years before we ever left our home planet. We've had plenty of practice and we've gotten very, very good at it. The alien admiral's forearms were shaking. That ship, it's not what it appeared to be. No, it's not. The Retribution is what we call a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's designed to look like a harmless patrol vessel while carrying enough firepower to level a continent. We have dozens of ships like her patrolling our borders. Chen stepped closer to the screen and her expression became cold and dangerous. You made two mistakes today, Admiral. First, you threatened peaceful human territory. Second, you assumed that being young meant being weak. You're about to learn why both of those were very bad ideas. Crixtel opened his mouth to speak, but Chen cut him off. You had your chance to leave. Now you get to see what happens to bullies who pick on the wrong species. She turned to Torres. Lieutenant Commander, you may fire when ready. Torres's hands moved over his controls with practiced efficiency. Aye, Captain. Ares, you are authorized to engage. Show them what human weapons can do. The artificial intelligence responded immediately. Engaging all targets. Time to completion, 3 minutes, 14 seconds. The Retribution's massive weapon, arrays began to rotate toward their targets. Energy readings that were already beyond Zephyrian understanding climbed even higher. Deep within the human ship, systems that represented the pinnacle of human military technology, prepared to demonstrate why humanity had never lost a war once they decided to fight it. Admiral Crixtel and his fleet were about to receive the most painful education of their lives. The first shot from the Retribution was almost gentle by human standards. A single pulse cannon fired at the nearest Zephyrian cruiser, a beam of concentrated energy that lasted only half a second. To the aliens watching, it looked like a small flash of light. The cruiser simply ceased to exist. One moment it was a massive warship bristling with weapons and armor. The next moment there was only empty space and a rapidly expanding cloud of glowing particles. 800 meters of alien engineering had been reduced to atoms so quickly that the ship's crew never even had time to realize they were under attack. On the bridge of the Void Render, Admiral Crixtel stared at his tactical display in complete shock. The icon representing the cruiser's savage talon had simply vanished from his screen. No explosion, no debris field, no distress signals. It was just gone. "Report!" he roared at his sensor officer. Vextar's 4 hands moved frantically over his controls, trying to make sense of what his instruments were telling him. "Admiral, the Savage Talon has been destroyed. Completely destroyed. I'm not detecting any wreckage larger than a grain of sand." "That's impossible. The Savage Talon had the same armor as our dreadnought. Nothing can cut through battle steel." That quickly. Before Vextar could respond, another flash of light came from the human ship. This time, 2 more Zephyrian vessels disappeared simultaneously. The beams that struck them were so precise and powerful that they carved through the alien ships like hot knives through butter. Now panic began to spread across the Zephyrian fleet. Ship captains who had been confident of victory just minutes before found themselves facing an enemy that could destroy their most powerful vessels with single shots. Emergency communications filled the radio channels as commanders demanded orders and information. But the Retribution was just getting started. Ares, Captain Chen said calmly. "Demonstrate our kinetic weapons." "Acknowledged, Captain." Firing main railgun. Deep within the human ship, a weapon that had no equal anywhere in the known galaxy began to charge. The railgun was a marvel of human engineering, capable of accelerating projectiles to significant fractions of light speed. The ammunition was simple, solid tungsten rods, each one perfectly machined and designed for maximum penetration. The railgun fired with a sound like thunder, sending a projectile streaking across space at nearly 100,000 kilometers per second. To the naked eye, it was invisible. The first indication that anything had happened was when the Zephyrian destroyer Bloodfang simply split in half. The tungsten rod had struck the alien ship dead center and passed completely through it without slowing down noticeably. The kinetic energy of the impact was so enormous that the destroyer's hull didn't just crack. It exploded outward in all directions. Within seconds, what had been a functional warship was reduced to thousands of pieces of twisted metal spinning away into space. Admiral Crixtel watched in growing horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. The humans weren't just winning. They were demonstrating a level of technological superiority that bordered on the impossible. Each weapon they used seemed more advanced than anything in the Zephyrian arsenal. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," he commanded desperately. "If we all attack together, we might be able to overwhelm their defenses." The remaining 8 alien ships turned their weapons on the Retribution and fired everything they had. Beams, missiles, particle streams, and explosive charges all struck the human ship's shields at once. The combined firepower was enough to glass a planet's surface. The Retribution absorbed it all without even slowing down. "Their shields aren't even fluctuating," Vexitar reported in a voice filled with despair. "Our weapons are having no effect at all." That was when Ares decided to show the aliens what human missile technology could accomplish. "Launching quantum torpedoes," the AI announced. From hidden launch tubes along the Retribution's hull, 12 sleek missiles emerged. They were each only 2 meters long, much smaller than the massive warheads the Zephyrians were used to seeing. The alien commanders might have dismissed them as insignificant if not for what happened next. The missiles didn't fly in straight lines toward their targets. Instead, they began to dance through space in impossible patterns, accelerating and changing direction in ways that defied the laws of physics as the Zephyrians understood them. Each missile seemed to exist in multiple locations at once, creating flickering afterimages that confused alien targeting systems. "What are those things?" Crixtel demanded. "I don't know, Admiral. Our sensors can barely track them. They're moving faster than anything we've ever seen, and they keep teleporting." The quantum torpedoes were one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. They didn't just fly through normal space. They could briefly shift into quantum dimensions, allowing them to appear to teleport short distances and pass through solid matter when needed. No known defense system could stop them. 6 of the remaining Zephyrian ships tried desperately to shoot down the incoming missiles. Their point defense systems fired thousands of shots, creating a wall of energy beams and explosive shells. The quantum torpedoes simply phased through the defensive fire, as if it didn't exist. When the missiles reached their targets, they didn't explode in the conventional sense. Instead, they created localized quantum implosions that collapsed matter. At the molecular level, each torpedo was capable of creating a sphere of absolute destruction, 50 meters in diameter. 6 more alien ships vanished in flashes of blue-white light. Now only 2 vessels remained from the once mighty Zephyrian fleet: the dreadnought Void, Render, and a heavy cruiser called Death's Edge. The cruiser captain, apparently deciding that survival was more important than honor, attempted to flee. His ship's engines flared to life as he tried to escape to hyperspace. "Ares, don't let that one get away," Chen ordered. "Intercepting with gravity lance," the AI replied. A weapon that existed only in theory and most civilizations fired from the Retribution's bow. The gravity lance created a focused beam of altered spacetime that could manipulate gravitational fields with surgical precision. The fleeing cruiser, which had been accelerating toward escape velocity, suddenly found itself being pulled backward by forces beyond its engine's ability to overcome. The ship's hull began to stretch and deform as the gravity lance dragged it back toward the human vessel. Metal screamed and bulkheads collapsed as the alien ship was literally pulled apart by gravitational stress. Within 30 seconds, the Death's Edge had been reduced to a long stream of debris that orbited the Retribution like the tail of a comet. Admiral Crixtel now found himself alone, the sole survivor of a fleet that had numbered 12 ships just minutes before. His mighty dreadnought, which had seemed so powerful when surrounded by allies, now felt small and helpless in the face of human technology. "Admiral," Vextar said quietly, "we should surrender. This is not a battle. This is an execution." But Crixtel's warrior pride wouldn't let him give up so easily. With a roar of defiance, he ordered his ship's most powerful weapon to fire. The dreadnought's main cannon was a massive particle beam designed to crack open fortified planets. Surely it would at least damage the human ship. The beam struck the Retribution's shields and was absorbed so completely that it barely registered on the human ship's sensors. "Is that all?" Captain Chen asked, almost sounding disappointed. "Ares, disable their weapons but leave life support intact. I think the Admiral and I need to have a conversation. Surgical strike incoming," Ares announced. A dozen precisely aimed energy beams lanced out from the Retribution, each one targeting a specific system on the alien dreadnought. The shots were so accurate that they destroyed every single weapon on the Void Render without damaging any other part of the ship. In 10 seconds, the most powerful warship in the Zephyrian fleet had been reduced to a helpless hulk. Admiral Crixtel stood on his bridge surrounded by sparking consoles and emergency lighting. His mighty fleet was gone. His weapons were destroyed. And the small human ship that had seemed like such easy prey was now revealing itself to be the most dangerous predator he had ever encountered. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Crixtel of the Zephyrian hegemony knew what it felt like to be completely and utterly defeated. The space around the Retribution was now filled with debris from 11 destroyed Zephyrian warships. Twisted pieces of metal drifted slowly past the human vessel like the remains of some great mechanical graveyard. Emergency beacons from alien escape pods blinked in the darkness, the only signs that thousands of Zephyrian warriors had survived the destruction of their fleet. The dreadnought Void Render hung dead in space, its weapon systems destroyed but its hull intact. Emergency lighting flickered through its viewports and Captain Chen could see small figures moving around inside, the surviving crew members trying to deal with the damage. "Captain," reported Martinez from his sensor station, "I'm reading approximately 3,000 life signs on various escape pods and damaged ship sections. The dreadnought still has most of its crew alive." Chen nodded slowly. The battle had lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. In that brief time, the most feared fleet in this sector of the galaxy had been reduced to wreckage and survivors. It could have been even shorter, but Ares had taken care to ensure that crew members had time to reach escape pods before their ships were destroyed. "Ares, excellent work. Stand down all weapons but maintain full defensive readiness." "Acknowledged, Captain. All offensive systems returning to standby mode. Shall I begin collecting the enemy survivors?" "Not yet. First, I want to have a chat with their admiral." Chen walked to the center of the bridge and nodded to Park at the communication station. "Open a channel to the alien flagship. Full visual." The main screen activated, showing the damaged bridge of the Void Render. Admiral Crixtel stood in the center of the destruction, his 4 arms hanging at his sides in defeat. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by the posture of a warrior who had just learned that everything he believed about his own superiority was wrong. Behind him, Zephyrian crew members worked frantically to repair damaged systems and tend to wounded comrades. The bridge that had been filled with confident laughter just minutes before was now a scene of controlled chaos and quiet desperation. "Admiral Crixtel," Chen said, her voice carrying the same calm professionalism it had throughout the encounter. "I trust you're beginning to understand the situation." The alien commander looked up at the screen with eyes that held a mixture of fear and something that might have been respect. When he spoke, his voice was much quieter than it had been before. "What are you?" he asked simply. "Your species, your technology. None of this matches our intelligence reports. We were told humans were primitive warriors with crude weapons and simple tactics. Chen considered the question carefully before answering. We are exactly what we've always been, Admiral. We're humans. The problem is that your intelligence was based on assumptions rather than facts. She gestured toward the debris field surrounding them. You saw a young species and assumed we were weak. You saw a small ship and assumed it was harmless. You heard stories of human conflicts and assumed we were savage and disorganized. All of those assumptions were wrong. Crixtel's yellow eyes narrowed slightly. But your wars, the reports we received spoke of humans fighting each other constantly, primitive conflicts with crude weapons. Those reports were accurate as far as they went, Chen admitted. Humans have fought many wars among ourselves, but what your spies didn't understand is that those conflicts taught us lessons that your species never had to learn. The captain began pacing slowly across her bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of human history. You see, Admiral, the Zephyrian hegemony conquered other species that were weaker than you. You fought enemies who had inferior technology and limited tactical knowledge. Every victory made you more confident in your own superiority. Chen stopped pacing and looked directly at the alien commander. But humans fought other humans. We battled opponents who were just as smart as we were, just as determined, just as creative. Every war forced us to innovate or die. Every battle taught us new ways to survive against enemies who knew all our tricks. She gestured toward the tactical displays around her bridge. The weapons you've seen today, the strategies we used, the technology that seems impossible to you, all of it was developed because we spent thousands of years fighting the most dangerous opponents in the galaxy, ourselves. Crixtel was silent for a long moment, processing what he was hearing. When he spoke again, his voice was filled with a kind of horrified understanding. You're saying that your internal conflicts made you stronger than species who conquered others? Exactly. While you were defeating enemies who couldn't match your capabilities, we were locked in an arms race with opponents who could match and exceed everything we developed. We learned to assume that our enemies were at least as smart as we were, at least as well equipped, and at least as determined to win. Chen's expression grew more serious. But there's something else you need to understand, Admiral. All of those wars, all of that conflict and innovation, we eventually grew beyond it. We learned to work together instead of fighting each other. We turned all of that military knowledge and technology toward exploration and defense instead of conquest. The alien commander looked confused. Then why do you have ships like this? Why do you carry weapons that can destroy entire fleets? Because, Chen replied simply, we learned that the galaxy is full of species like yours. Aggressive civilizations that see peaceful exploration as weakness. Conquerors who mistake restraint for inability. She leaned forward slightly, her voice becoming colder. We tried diplomacy first, Admiral. I gave you multiple chances to leave peacefully. You chose violence instead. Crixtel's 4 arms trembled slightly. What happens now? Will you destroy my remaining crew? Will you hunt down the rest of the Zephyrian hegemony? Chen was quiet for several seconds, considering her answer. When she spoke, her words carried a weight that made even her own crew members pay closer attention. That depends entirely on you and your people, Admiral. Humans don't seek conquest. We don't want to rule other species or take their worlds. We just want to be left alone to explore the galaxy in peace. She gestured toward the escape pods floating in the debris field. I could have destroyed every one of your ships with all hands aboard. Instead, I made sure your crews had time to escape. I could have killed you all, but I chose not to. Do you understand what that means? The Zephyrian commander nodded slowly. You're showing mercy. I'm giving you a choice, Chen corrected. The same choice I gave you when this encounter began. You can choose coexistence, or you can choose extinction. She stood up straighter, her voice becoming formal and official. You will return to your government with a message. Tell them that humanity is willing to establish peaceful relations with the Zephyrian hegemony. We'll respect your territory if you respect ours. We'll trade knowledge and resources if you're interested. We'll even provide assistance if you face threats from other species. Chen's expression became deadly serious. But if you choose to see us as enemies, if you decide that conquest is more important than survival, then you'll face the same fate as your fleet here today, except next time, we won't be as generous with the survivors. Admiral Crixtel straightened up as much as he could manage given the damage to his bridge. Despite his defeat, some of his warrior pride remained. And if my government chooses war? If they decide that the Zephyrian hegemony cannot accept the existence of a species more powerful than ourselves? Chen's smile was not pleasant. Admiral, what you've seen today was one ship on routine patrol. If your government chooses war, you won't be facing the retribution alone. You'll be facing the entire human defense fleet. She paused to let that sink in. We have over 2,000 ships like this one, Admiral. Some of them are much larger and much more heavily armed. All of them are crewed by humans who learned warfare from fighting each other, the most dangerous opponents in the galaxy. The alien commander's face went pale. The idea of facing 2,000 ships like the Retribution was beyond horrifying. I will deliver your message, Crixtel said quietly. I will tell them what I have seen here today. Good, Chen replied. My crew will collect your survivors and provide medical assistance to the wounded. We'll give you a functional ship to return home in, one of your escort vessels that we can repair quickly. She looked around at the debris field one more time, before turning back to the screen. I hope your government makes the right choice, Admiral, because despite what happened here today, humans would much rather have you as friends than enemies. The transmission ended, and the main screen returned to showing the floating wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet. Captain Chen turned to address her bridge crew. Torres, coordinate with Ares to begin rescue operations. I want every survivor picked up and given medical attention. Martinez, prepare a full report of this encounter for Fleet Command. Park, send a priority message to Earth. First contact with the Zephyrian hegemony has been established. As her crew began working, Chen sat back down in her captain's chair and allowed herself a moment of reflection. In less than an hour, she had gone from conducting routine patrol duties to potentially changing the balance of power in this entire sector of the galaxy. She hoped Admiral Crixtel was smart enough to convince his government